Hi, I'm Amber.
Hi, I'm AJ, and welcome to Mountain Traditions Homestead.
Welcome back to the kitchen here at the homestead, guys. We just wanted to show you what we're doing this evening. We are making some fridge pickles. I've got some pickling cucumbers here. These are Boston pickling cucumbers from Baker Creek. This is about the right size for them. There's a couple here that we let get a little too big, but I'm going to try pickling them anyway and see how they turn out. I've got some banana peppers here that we're going to pickle with the cucumbers, actually, because we don't have enough of these. I've got a ton off of the plants, but we had some family things come up and didn't have time to process them, so I ended up giving those away so they didn't go to waste. Also, I'm not sure if you can see the stove here, I've got some quail eggs that are boiling, and I've got some beets on, and we are going to pickle the eggs and the beets together. Of course, quail eggs are little bitty small eggs. I'll show you once they cool down here in a minute. I'm going to put those in the freezer so they're easier to peel. I've also never tried to peel a quail egg, so we'll see how that goes. But that's the best way that I could think of to use them. So we're going to be doing that. In a future video, we're going to be peeling some tomatoes. These are the ones that we've already pulled off the vine, and we were just getting a couple here and there up to this point. Now we're getting a lot off at one time, but we were just sticking them in the freezer until we could process them. So these kind of like pool balls in there, but they've been frozen, and I'm getting ready to add some to the pile. Got a little pile in here that we're going to put in the freezer. So we're going to get everything started, and we'll be right back. Okay, we are all ready to get everything chopped up. I've got a bowl here with some cold salt water in it. This is just to help keep your pickles crunchy. And we're doing fridge pickles. We're not going to actually be pressure canning these. We're just going to stick them in the fridge and eat them over the next couple weeks. You actually let them sit in there for a week or so before you eat them to let all the flavors get in there. So I'm going to be chopping all this up, and we'll be back in just a minute. We've got all of our pickles and peppers chopped up. One thing I did want to mention, I didn't take all of the seeds out of my banana peppers. With peppers, if you have a hot pepper, the seeds are also going to add heat. These are not spicy banana peppers, these are sweet banana peppers. So they will not add any heat to the dish. So they don't bother us. If they do bother you, you can go through the trouble of seeding all the peppers. But that is a lot of extra work, so that's just something to think about. It's just your personal preference. So I am also going to cut up part of this onion here. Just for some extra flavor. And I like onion and garlic in everything, some people don't. So again, it's just what you prefer. And I'm not going to do these really small. I'm going to leave them pretty big so that you can pick them out if you don't want to eat them when you're actually getting the contents out of the jar. Alright, I've got about 10 minutes left on my beets. I've got my quail eggs in the freezer. This is what I do with chicken eggs when they're really fresh. they're hard to peel, so as soon as I get them out, I stick them in the freezer. It makes it easier to peel, so we'll try that with these and see how it works. I'm going to let them sit a little longer. Not too much more because I don't want them to freeze solid. Alright, I have 2 quart jars here, and I just washed these out. I did not sterilize these because this is going to be fridge preservation. We are not going to pressure can these. If you were going to pressure can your stuff, absolutely sterilize your jars, but just to stick them in the refrigerator, you just have to make sure they're nice and clean. Also, I like to use these lids if I'm using a mason jar for storage, like this pickle and salt, or if I'm putting something in the refrigerator. It's much easier than a ring and a canning lid, and also it doesn't waste them when you actually need to can with. So we're going to be using these. I'm going to go ahead and pack my jars. We'll start with one because I'm thinking I'll only fill 1 quart jar. So I'm going to put a little bit of onion in the bottom. And then I'm just going to start putting my contents in here. I got that other one out for the beets and stuff. If I did a better job at packing my jar, it would take up as much room probably. And I just put the onions in the bottom because they're just for flavor. I'm not actually going to plan on eating those. Like I do have enough for another quart. That's surprising. I'm excited about that, but it's surprising. Onion down in here. Save a little bit of the onion for beets. I started to say I didn't know if I'd have enough for another quart, but maybe a pint, but it is going to fill a quart for sure. We have only been canning for about a year. Seriously canning. I've canned in the past, but I've not been serious about it until me and AJ got into it together. So a more seasoned canner would be able to look at something and tell you how much it would fill, how many jars it would fill. I'll go ahead and grab another one here. It's amazing how many you get out of just what, 5 cucumbers is that what we had. Of course 2 of them were kind of monster cucumbers, but just the same. And also floating these vegetables in the salt water, some more of the seeds comes out, which is, like I said, it doesn't bother us, but that's an added bonus. Alright, so we have 2 quart jars and a pint ready to fill with the brine. Okay, my timer just went off for our beets, so I'm going to get those off the stove and set them out of the way and let them start cooling down. And we're about to start our pickling brine. This recipe I actually got from that Homestead family. I've seen several different versions of it. They're all very similar, but I'm using hers. It is 1 cup of white vinegar, 1 cup of apple cider vinegar, 1/2 cup of sugar, and 2 teaspoons of pickling spice. So I'm actually going to double this recipe since I had a few more pickles than I realized. So I will get everything out and ready and be back in just a second. Okay, so like I said, I'm doubling the recipe. So we're going to do 2 cups of white vinegar. This is also the first time that I've made pickles 100% homemade. Last year we made some, but we bought the cucumbers from a local market, which is better than, you know, a big box store, but we bought them, and we just used the packet that you get from Rural King or Walmart or Feed Store, wherever you get canned supplies at. this is a first, and it used all white vinegar, and we've joked, I don't know if you guys know who Aunt B is off of Andy Griffith, but there's an episode where she makes gasoline pickles, and she thinks they're wonderful, everybody else thinks, and that's kind of what we feel like we've made with gasoline pickles. So I liked this recipe because it halved the white vinegar. I feel like it'll be not quite, won't have quite the bite. So we've got 2 cups of the apple cider vinegar. Now we're going to do a cup of sugar, and our flour and sugar, we actually buy 25 pounds at a time because we do a lot of canning, a lot of homemade breads, anything that we can homemade we try to. It's cheaper, it's better for you, so we buy in bulk. It's a lot cheaper that way. It's kind of hard to find places to get it. We actually have to drive a good bit, but we don't have to go very often, so it's worth it. Which is the flour we get at Walmart sometimes. We buy self-rising and all-purpose, so sometimes you can find it at Walmart, sometimes not. Last thing we're going to add to our brine is pickling spice. And we're going to, like I said, double it. So it's going to be 4 teaspoons of pickling spice. If I can get it over. Alright, there we go. And some people use specific spices. I think actually that Homestead family, her video said you could use, I believe it was mustard seed and celery seed possibly, instead of the pickling spice. I feel like I would get more use out of the pickling spice, so that's what we're going to do. It smells really good. Looks like this has bay leaves, mustard seed. Right? So, we're going to bring this to a boil, and then we are going to pour it over our jars. So we'll be back with you as soon as this starts to boil. Okay, so I have got the brine for the pickles going, and I'm going to try to peel these little bitty quail eggs, and we'll see how this goes. Like I said, I did have them in the freezer, so they're easier to peel, actually. Not as hard as I thought it would be. I'm going to get a close-up of this. They smell just like a chicken egg.
Excuse the camera shake.
And we did boil these. Oh, the shells are blue on the inside. Here's our little tiny quail egg we peeled, and it actually peeled very easily. I'm surprised. I don't know if it's picking up on camera, but the shells are blue inside. They're really pretty green on the outside. These are from our button quail. There's a few different kinds of quail. Not many people around us have button quail, actually. It's usually, I think you say Cortex. That's how you say it, or Bob White. That's what's popular around here. Okay, so we've got all these little quail eggs peeled. I'm going to put them in here to rinse. They do have a little bit of shell left on them. Set this for a second. I really smell this pickling brine strong, so we're going to check it. Boiling. Woo! That'll burn your sinus cavity for sure. Woo! Just a tip. If you're making pickles, boiling vinegar, it's going to make your house smell a little weird. I went ahead and started burning some candles before we started this because I knew. Sugar's almost completely dissolved. I'm going to let it go just a little longer. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so we've got our brine all ready to go here. I'm getting ready to fill these jars. I realized that I didn't have any dill. I'm not sure if the mixed pickle and spice has dill in it or not. It doesn't say, but I don't think it has enough dill for our taste. So I've got some dill seed here. Unfortunately, when we grew our dill, it didn't make it in the spring. So I'm just going to put a little pinch of this in there. in each jar. Just a little pinch to give it a little bit of dill flavor. And this is an experiment. It's kind of something you have to figure out what works for your taste too. So, okay, we're going to try that. And also, I'm going to put some of this pickle crisper in there. It calls for, let's see, 1/4 of a teaspoon per quart or 1/8 of a teaspoon per pint. I'm not going to be that precise about it. I am just going to put a little pinch in there. That's, again, the Southern woman in me. I don't really measure a lot when I'm cooking. Now, if I was canning these pickles, pressure canning these, I would go exactly. But since they're fridge pickles, we're just going to put a little bit in each one. So a little pinch there, a pinch here, a little pinch there. And you want to do this before you pour your brine in. So our brine is very hot. I'm getting ready to ladle it out and hope I have enough. I doubled the recipe. So if I didn't, I'll have to, if I don't have enough, I'll have to go back and add some more. This would be easier with a canning funnel. I didn't bother to get that out of my drawer before I got started, so we're just going to work with it. I'm not sure, but I don't think I'm going to have enough brine. So I might have to add some more to my pot. Again, it's awesome that we had so many pickles, but I did not anticipate this. I'm trying to make sure I pick up some of the pickled spice with each ladle here, so it's easy for that kind of stuff to sink to the bottom away from you. I might have enough. If I do, it's going to be one of those things, it's just by the skin of my teeth, as my grandma used to say. Got our cucumbers, everything covered. Set that one to the back. I'll go ahead and set a lid on top of it. I'm going to let it come more to room temperature before I tighten it down, but just to keep any bugs or anything out of it. Quart number 2. Okay, I'm going to try to talk a little louder. I know the pot here is making some noise, but I have the extra brine in. I am working on the pickled beets, and we actually quartered this recipe, so I will leave the full recipe in the comments for y'all below, but my version is 1/3 cup of the water from where you boiled your beets. The recipe calls for the water. Anytime I've ever seen somebody make beets, pickled beets, they'll use the water from the beets pretty much just to make it pretty. So we're going to do that, and this will stain your fingers. I'll probably have stained fingers tomorrow. I'm going to pull my beets out of here, put them in my bowl. It's still pretty warm. Get a fork so I'm not burning myself. Woo! Let it splash you like that, it's still going to burn you. But I just stabbed. Alright, so I'm going to set those aside. Go ahead and throw the rest of this. Actually, I'm going to keep that beet water to make sure that I've got enough here. Okay, so the recipe that we came up with calls for the water, 1 cup of apple cider vinegar, half a cup of sugar, and then we're going to be using a teaspoon of the pickled spice. This also calls for a cinnamon stick. I'm not a big fan of cinnamon myself, and our son's actually allergic to cinnamon, so I'm not sure that he'll eat pickled beets and eggs. but he'll probably want to try it, so we're going to leave the cinnamon out. That's our personal preference. Your grandma probably did put cinnamon in there, but we're not going to. And I'm just, again, going to eyeball this teaspoon. May have been just a little more because more dropped out than I expected, but so we're going to let this heat up. Make sure your sugar's all dissolved. While that's going, I'm going to see if I can run some cold water over these beets and get the skins off of those. Actually, they're not too hot for me to handle, so we're just going to go ahead and skin these. Okay, we are back with our pickled beets and eggs here, and the brine is just about finished up. We'll let it go just another minute here, but I've got to finish the other brine for the pickles. So I've got all the jars filled and the lids just sitting on top, and they're ready to go. In about a week, we'll try these and let you guys know how they were in case you want to use the recipe. But we're going to let those come to room temperature before we stick them in the fridge, so we'll wait till tonight sometime to stick them in there. And out of my 2 beets and my quail eggs, we got 3/4 of a quart jar filled here. So, but like I said, these are just for the fridge. So if we were pressure canning, it would be different. Okay, everything looks good and dissolved. I'm just going to try to pour it in here, and it's just enough to cover. And that probably would have been enough for a quart if I'd had it full, and of course then it would have took up more room in the jar. Wouldn't have had as much liquid. That's what they look like. They're really pretty. Hope they taste as good as they look. Thank you guys for joining us in the kitchen today. We hope you liked the video. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe and share with someone who you think would also enjoy it. We will probably be back with some more canning videos in the next week. Probably definitely this coming weekend we'll have tomatoes and hopefully some green beans. So we'll see you guys next time.
God bless.